the Oregonian.
Joe, is a different scheme and an offense last year, but these guys were more disruptive against Oregon than anybody on a per play basis, with 7 tackles for loss on just 54 offensive plays. What have you seen in looking back at that? And other than not having to block Toohill, who's no longer there, what makes you more confident that you'll be able to avoid those negative plays that can be drive killers when plays are at such a premium against this team?
Yeah, 52 was a terror last year off the edge. He had an excellent game and played very well. And those are things that we've addressed and kind of talked about. That you got to stay ahead of the sticks, and get out of or stay out of third and long situations. As you mentioned, the 54 plays. Stanford's a ball control style offense, so you're going to get limited opportunities. But yeah, certainly at the point of attack. At the line of scrimmage, we got to do a great job. They're big and physical up front. A couple 300-pounders, play the run very well, do a great job with their hands. Want to keep the ball inside the core. So, we got to do everything we can to stay out of those third and long situations.
Ryan Thorburn, the register guard.
Joe, when you have a new quarterback and an entirely new offensive line, and that obviously you're new as well, so that probably helps. But how concerned are you with just the continuity of a game one and trying to avoid, procedure calls and things like that with a new group?
Yeah, we want to do everything that we can from a preparation standpoint, to minimize those, pre-snap, penalties or anything throughout the course of a drive that can knock you back. So that's been a point of emphasis throughout camp and certainly now into Stanford, game week preparation, that we got to play well. As a unit, we got to be very cohesive. You have to be great at communication, and don't do anything that's going to be, affect us, adversely just before the ball is even snapped.
Eric Scopel, 247 Sports.
No, you're not going to tip your hand to who's going to start at quarterback, but can I ask you to just evaluate the fall camp both Tyler and Anthony had, and kind of what strengths and weaknesses stood out from this camp from both?
No, I think those guys have both done a nice job kind of digesting the offense in the meeting room and taking that information to the field and applying it. And, for not just those guys, but the entire, position group, we want to maximize explosive plays while minimizing, turnovers. And we want to be able to, throw the ball and run the ball with equal effectiveness. You have to be able to push the ball down the field, but at the same time, we want to be aggressive but not reckless with our decision-making. And then we got to be able to affect the game with our feet, whether it's by design or improvisation, whether it's a called run where the quarterback reads it and runs, or it's something where a play breaks down and these guys all have good feet. And, so that's kind of where we've been throughout camp with the position.
Tyson Alger, the Athletic.
My question is slightly related to that, but in the past, you've talked about the flexibility of your offense and how if you have a year where it's, you can go pass heavy one year, throw 5,000 yards at 4 and 1, or you can adapt it to a more run heavy offense. Just through 4 weeks of camp and coming into week one, do you have a feel for like where the strength of this offense is going to be?
Yeah, I think we'll be able to be balanced, and that's very exciting. Obviously, it starts up front, with the offensive line, and we go as they go. Otherwise, it's 7-on-7 or flag football. But an unbelievable stable of running backs with great depth. Very versatile. Receivers. A lot of guys who have played winning football at the receiver position, and a bunch of talented guys at the quarterback spot. So I think when you have to lean too heavily on one side or the other, out of necessity, I don't think you're necessarily as versatile as you would like to be. But I think we're an offense right now that we're going to be able to, hopefully run it and throw it with equal effectiveness.
AJ Jacobson, Rivals.
Coach, I was wondering, with the 2 quarterbacks you're looking at, are the packages the same for both of them, regardless of who's in, or do you have slightly different variations on your play calling depending on which quarterback might be in?
No, we feel both of those guys. There wouldn't be a situation where one goes in and we've got to alter what we're doing. I think both of them, obviously Anthony's got a lot of experience and has played and won games at this level. So, that's the one thing where he's done a little bit more. Tyler's, served some time as an understudy, but they're both very, very smart players. They're guys that think football at a very high level. And like I said, both guys who can throw it and run it with equal effectiveness. So there wouldn't be a change based on who's in the game. And if there was one, I probably wouldn't tip my hat anyway.
Sorry, Coach. Matt Preem, 247 Sports.
Yeah, Joe, there's a lot of excitement, I think, from outside the program about this offense. Your players have said the same thing. For you, what excites you about this team this year on offense?
I think the biggest thing that excites me about the offense and the team overall, as I mentioned before, is the culture, the kids' willingness and their energy and their enthusiasm when you take the practice field. You know, their attention to detail, how hard they play, and how cohesive they are as a unit. But I think, you know, going back to a previous question, the thing that excites me most outside the talent and the culture is the balance and our ability to, you know, run it and throw it with equal effectiveness. And I think when you're able to do that, you're able to keep the defense a little bit off balance and, you know, make you ultimately more productive.
Bill Breaker, KWVA.
Two questions. First, I don't want to read into this too much, but Coach Master, I think I said last week, said 2.5 running backs. You had 4 listed on the organizational chart. Can't remember the last time. It was primarily 3 last year. And second, the decision to not be in the booth and on the field, is that something you did at Penn State? Because last year, the offensive coordinator was in the booth.
Right. What was the first? What was that? Sounded like more of a statement. The first one. What was the question for the first one?
The decision to have 4 running backs.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I think you want to just make sure you're doing what you can to maximize the talent at the position. And, you know, I mean, it may go deeper than 4. And I think Coach Master does a great job with the room, understanding what the strengths and weaknesses of each guy are, and putting them in a position during the game and practice to be successful. So I think that's a luxury, you know, and when you have that many guys that are capable, and certainly headlined by CJ, who's very, very exciting and explosive. But there's a bunch of guys at that position who bring unique skill sets, and I think Coach does a great job of kind of identifying what they are and tailoring them to the situation. And the second one was what again? I'm sorry.
The decision to be on the field and on the booth.
Oh, yeah. I throughout the early part of my career, I had called it from the booth, and I have experience doing that. When I went to Fordham as the head coach and the play caller, I didn't have a choice, so I had to call it from the field, and actually was pleasantly surprised with what you can see down there and how you can get it called if you have someone up in the booth that you trust to communicate information to you. And I also think there's a certain part of the motivational aspect of it, of being to look the entire unit of the offense and the quarterback in the eye and communicate to them. So, you know, that went into our decision. One, that I've done it, have had a fair amount of success doing it, and that we trust the guys who are going up in the booth to provide very detailed and accurate information.
Jerry Thompson, Ducks Illustrated.
Yes. Coach Cristobal said yesterday that he had 9 championship level offensive linemen. In the past, the Ducks have usually displayed the reserves and mop-up time. Do you think this year, because of that depth, that there might be more rotation in the offensive line?
I think it's a possibility. And anytime you're replacing 5 starters, and you know, the guys who are going in have had varying levels of participation relative to this level, you're trying to find the right mix. So I think that's the biggest thing right now, that between Coach Cristobal and Coach Mearball, those guys are coached at a very, very high level. We do a great job at practice, mixing and matching, you know, either positions, cross-training guys, or having entire units go in there. So I think, you know, there are a significant number of guys that could go in there and play at a winning level. Now it's just a matter of finding what that, you know, what that best kind of best 5 looks like.
James Crapia.
Joe, I preface this only slightly by saying I loathe player comps. I think it's really unfair to players to do, but you coach Saquon and he put up the 1,000 yards and over 300, over 400 yards receiving. CJ did that as well. And we really haven't asked you very much about him, which is probably more commentary on us. Do you see any comparison at all between the elite player you had at Penn State and what CJ is capable of? Because Jim has raved about him. Obviously, you've spoken highly of him. Do you see any comparisons there?
No, he's incredibly explosive. You know, Saquon was kind of a unique guy, as everybody knows, just from a skill set perspective. But I think CJ kind of reminds me of a combination. He has some Colin Hill in him, and he also has some Chase Edmonds in him, if that makes sense. You know, that he's a very sturdily built guy, and when you watch Colin run between the tackles with CJ, they bounce off of people and they don't get brought down to the ground very easily. Very low center of gravity, very powerfully built, and are able to run through half a man or run through arm tackles. And you go back to kind of the things that Chase did, that he was very shifty, very elusive, can make people miss in space. So I see of the backs, Kylan will be a draft pick, Saquon, Chase, Jordan Todman before him at UConn. We've had a lot of backs that have gone on to the next level and been very successful. And, CJ certainly is going to do that as well.
Warren Williamson, Oregon Duck Football News.
Joe, I asked Andy this question. I wanted to get your thoughts on this. Just as a mentor and a coach and even a dad, how important is it to you today to talk to your student athletes about voting, about that process, about being part of that process?
Yeah, I think I haven't had to say a word about it. Coach Cristobal has done a phenomenal job addressing the team over and over and over again about the importance of this day, as it pertains to the young men individually and the overall kind of fabric of the state and the country. So that hasn't been something I've had to address with the guys, because Coach has done an unbelievable job with it.
Aaron Heisen, KWVA.
Yeah, Joe, with so many notable receiving options this season, I just want to focus on Micah Pittman going into the season. How have you seen him grow throughout camp, and what will that translate into his role on the field?
Who are those jerseys in the background behind you?
Oh, I'm a Chargers fan.
Oh, there
That's
you go.
Derwin James and Joey Bosa.
Nice. Yeah, Mike is a guy that loves the sport of football. You see that he plays with an incredible amount of passion and excitement, and I think that's one of the best things about him is he doesn't love just game day. He loves the practice, and he's a guy that's got a lot of versatility. He's worked at the outside receiver position and in the slot. Great fundamentals and technique, good short distance quickness, excellent hands. So Mike is a guy you enjoy coaching because he enjoys not just to play, he enjoys to practice as well.
Eric Scopel, 247 Sports.
Just with Stanford, when you put them on film, what pops out? What jumps out when you're watching that defense?
I'd say size and physicality of the front seven. I'd say length on the back end. Very well coached, play with incredible effort, and a team that really tries to minimize explosive plays. And you kind of look at the whole season. There were some games where, I think the 4 games in our breakdown, Stanford was the only one that scored over 24 points. I think everyone else was 24 or less. So Coach Thompson does a good job with that unit. You could see the kids, believe in their scheme and play with a lot of confidence and a lot of physicality. So I think those are the challenges that are presented to us this week.
We have time for 2 more. AJ Jacobson, Rivals.
Coach, it sounds like true freshman wide receiver Chris Hudson has put himself in position to help you out this season. Talk about what you've seen from him on the field and what his skill set's like. Yeah,
Coach McClellan has done a great job. Anytime you could get a true freshman, ready to go in this short amount of time who hasn't been exposed to the offense, I think that's a, credit to Coach and what he's doing in the meeting room. Chris is very, very fast. He's got excellent straight line speed. He could get behind people. He could blow the top off the coverage. He kind of reminds me of Micah a little bit in the sense that he's a guy that enjoys, playing the game of football, whether it be practice or a game. Had a huge, long touchdown catch in our last, team related, I don't call it scrimmage, but practice. But he's a guy with a ton of upside, and you just got to keep bringing him along.
And finally, James Crapia, the Oregonian.
Joe, we've spoken about the depth at running back. Jim was leaving the possibility open to just employing a few different things, maybe even a little bit of a fullback look. I know you're base 11 and base 12 for the most part. They ran a little bit at 20, 21 last year, but especially against these guys, do you see the possibility for more 20, 21, 22 personnel at times?
Heck, when I was at different places, we've done different things. When I was at UConn, we were 50% 11, and then the rest was 21, 12, and 22. And, not to obviously tip our hand or talk about what we're going to do in the game, but I will say this, we do have the flexibility to, be one back, be two back. I don't know necessarily about true fullback, but, with that tight end, if you align him off the ball, kind of in that wing position, that's kind of, analogous to almost a fullback position, I guess, in some ways. But I think we have, because of our personnel, the flexibility to line up in one or two back, but, that's to be determined based on, particular week and what we want to do.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate your time.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Everyone have a great day.
Have a good day.
You too.